What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Got another good one for y'all today. So in my last video, right, I started kind of like the beginner's introduction to motorcycles. So we're going to continue down that road. And I feel like last time we talked about the basics. Like, here's a motorcycle. Here's all the important parts that you need to know about of a motorcycle. Now, we're going to talk about how do we make this thing move. Now, as I have mentioned before, I'm not an expert. Don't look at me like an expert. Now, sitting in what I like to call the cockpit, but sitting on your bike, you got the clutch, brake, throttle. You know what? Thinking about that, that's one thing I missed in my last video. This is your throttle right here. I missed that. Forgive me, but it is what it is. Now, you got your clutch. In order to make this thing move, you've got to find what is called the friction zone, right? That is what most people usually refer to it as. But it is the point where when you have this squeezed in, you have disengaged the transmission to the engine using the clutch, right? Once you engage your first gear, you're going to let out on the clutch. You'll hear the engine kind of bog a little bit. Very smooth, be smooth. And then you'll feel it. And you'll hear it, feel it. And the bike will start wanting to go forward. For those of you that are new, this is where you live right now. You know what I'm saying? You've never ridden a motorcycle in your entire life. This is where you live right now. Get used to feeling that. Right? Because if you let out too fast, there you go. You'll kill it. There's no such thing as too slow. Be smooth with it. You'll gain the confidence over time. And then when you actually want to take off, just a touch of throttle. Right? Off you go. And when you're practicing, especially if you're on like a Harley or like a R7, you know, one of the bikes that has like a torquey bottom end, you can take off. You can do it with this. Zero throttle. You can take off, zero throttle. Even on one of these, you can take off with absolutely no throttle. Now, there's another important thing that I'm going to show you that leads to most beginner riders dropping their bikes, right? Your front brake. Wherever you have your handlebars or your front tire pointing, when you grab that front brake, the bike is going to want to go in that direction. So especially when you're at low speeds, if you have your bars turned like this, your bike's going to want to go in that direction when you hit that front brake. Every time. And if you're not ready for it, that's what usually is the leading cause of beginner riders at very low speeds dropping their bikes. So keep that in mind whenever you go to hit your front brakes. The harder you hit the front brakes, the more that effect is applied. Now, generally, the best way to slow down or stop your bike is to have your handlebars straight with the rest of the bike. It provides the most stopping power, so on and so forth. Outside of that, my bike does not have ABS on it. There's a lot of bikes out there that do not have ABS on it. So if you just grab a fistful of front brake, two things is about to happen. Either you're going to lift the back tire and do an endo until you go over the handlebars, or you're going to lock up the front tire. You're going to go down anyway. Now, don't be afraid of it, but there's a thing called progressive braking, right? When you first grab your front brake, that should be light pressure, light pressure. I typically, if you watch my videos, I typically only 2 fingers on the front brake, because especially if you're on a sport bike. A sport bike's front brakes are super strong. They'll lock up the front end easy. That's why I only use 2 fingers front brake, sometimes even 1. But, and one's really all you need. There's enough strength in 1 finger. You can grab the front brake and lift the back end up, or lock up the front end. Progressive braking. You're always watching what you're doing, and then either 1 finger, 2 fingers, or even if you know, I've seen people who they'll rest this finger up here and use their 2 middle fingers. I've seen people use their whole hand. I think your whole hand is a bit overkill. Personally, I feel like you should always have 2 fingers down on the throttle so that you can manipulate the throttle, and then 1 finger on the brake, 2 fingers, something where you can always maintain some throttle control while you're on the brakes. But that's some kind of more advanced riding stuff. Anyway, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. It's not hard. There's nothing hard about it. Take your time. For those of you that have an issue with throttle opening, like, because I've had a couple of people, it's like, how do you not apply throttle whenever you're trying to brake? Chances are what you're doing, let me get to this little shady spot. Chances are, I'm going to guess, you're doing one of 2 things. Either when you're pulling on the brake, you're also rotating your wrist backwards, or you're grabbing the throttle with your thumb in such a manner that when you apply the brake, you're also twisting the throttle as well. The best way that I've heard it put, you should grab the throttle almost as if you're trying to grab a pencil, right? Me personally, I like the sound, because the feeling to me is more of that of how you would hold a golf club, right? Because the throttle always goes through this part of my hand. I hold the throttle like this. This way I can pinch right here and still manipulate my brakes here. You should manipulate your brakes. It's just like shooting a gun, just with your finger, not your whole hand, just your finger. Anyway, practice, and then when you think you've got it, practice some more, and then when you think you got it, then keep on practicing, because these skills, some of these skills are, for some, they're natural. For others, they're acquired. And even if you think you're the king dingling on the motorcycle, keep practicing, because I'm telling you right now, there's always room for improvement, no matter what you're doing. So keep it going, baby. Get out there. Don't ever assume that you know everything, because I damn sure don't, and you'll never see me pretend like I do. I love riding. It's one of the greatest things in the world. It's one of my best stress relievers. But you're never gonna see me come out here trying to pretend like I know everything, because the fact is, I don't. But anyhow, y'all go out there and practice and enjoy your ride, and we'll see y'all in the next one.